everyone. Super excited to have you here today. Super excited. So to continue our announcements, yes, definitely go over to siegecon.net and check out all the cool things that are happening. Workshop registration for GGDA members, it goes live tomorrow. So keep an eye out for that. Either pop over there tomorrow or keep an eye on their social channels for that announcement. There will be more great games at the Siege Investment Conference at 9 a.m. on November 13th. Definitely a great opportunity. Be sure to get your ticket for Siege and check that out. Those are the big announcements. That we are accepting applications for the Silver Excellence in Game Dev Awards through Sunday. Is that correct, Andrew? I think. Yes, through Sunday. So if you've been dragging booty, get yourself together. It's a great opportunity. There is money and money on the line that you could walk home with if you win this, and you can also get some really good counseling from people who have been there and done that. So definitely go and check out this opportunity. There's no application fee or anything like that. So don't miss out. All right. So I'm ready for indie games. I don't know who else out there is, but I certainly am. So we have 3 studios that will be presenting today. One is Kevin with Shiny Dolphin Games. The next one will be Dwayne with Brave Rock Games, and we'll be closing out with Ryan with Laser Bread Games. So super excited to have everybody there. If you want to learn more about the devs or the games that are being featured, there's a couple of chat commands in there for you. So if you want to pull up that whole list of everything, learn all the stuff, just type in exclamation point commands and you'll be in good shape. All right. So without further ado, let's get started.
Hello, everyone. So Zap Blastum is a top-down shooter. It has typical twin stick controls like left stick moves, right stick aims. But the difference is you just pick a target and you stay locked onto the target. And we also have a cover system. So if I run up to a wall and push against it, I snap into these cover locations. So we're trying to streamline a lot of the manual aspects of playing a game like this. So the end of every planet has a little mini boss. So this one's your classic breaking up into multiple bits. I am in trouble. Cover is very important in this game. Unlike a lot of games where enemies have pretty bad aim and you have to dodge a lot, in this game you really have to use cover because the enemy bullets are fast. They're really trying to kill you, which makes running out in the open much more dangerous than in something like Nuclear Throne where you're kind of out in the open frequently. In this game you really have to hop between covers more. So each of the different planets introduces new enemies. Now we've got this shotgun thing, but I picked up a shotgun earlier, so I can carry 2 weapons at a time and swap between them. So now I can fight fire with fire, but if I get too close, I'm gonna get shot.
About how many weapons did you put in?
There's about 15 right now. We're still trying to figure out the right number. This is not planned to be as large as like Enter the Gungeon and stuff where there's like hundreds of weapons. It's definitely more of a bite-sized game as a general design principle. So we're trying to pick the right ones to include. He's just walking back and forth. There we go.
Yeah, you seem to have done the same with the enemies you've got in here. Certainly, some are defined by their amount of hit points. They're actually their damage, but it also seems like there's some who do better against you when you're in cover. I don't know if they have very effect weapons or what. What are the different criteria you're using to define the villains? What sort of stats do they have?
Yeah, it's they've got different armor levels, and generally we're thinking about close versus long range and different varieties of that. Like we have squads of enemies, so if you have a bunch of short range enemies mixed with a bunch of long range ones, they kind of implicitly work together, even without the AI having to do too much, because you have to stay far away to stay away from the close range ones, but then if you try and run out to shoot anybody, the long range ones might snipe you while you're peeking out from cover.
Very nice. What platforms is this currently on?
We are definitely going to be on PC and Switch. Other consoles are a maybe.
That's what I thought. Can you talk a little about the UI design for the Switch? It's pretty clear how this would be between the Switch and the PC. What changes you've had to make between them?
Well, one of the things we did was this game used to be a touchscreen game primarily. It used to be more aimed at mobile. But I guess I sort of realized that I was more excited about working on the console controls. So a lot of the changes we made were removing buttons from the UI, I guess. Like if you look at our dashboard on screen right now, there's really not many buttons. That start menu at the top is also going to go away. So we're really focusing on turning things that used to be mouse clicks into button presses. I died.
Yeah, very clean interface for this.
Yeah, and that's kind of a messaging thing. Like when we were a mobile game, it just didn't really fit. Like the game was a little bit too actiony. I mean, it was interesting, but we're trying to communicate with the UI now more that it's a console game. So that was a big change. And I think there's subtle differences between console and PC too. Like buttons have to be big enough to see on your screen, on your TV screen from farther away, versus a computer screen, buttons can be pretty small. So that's been a consideration.
Yeah, it does feel like it's going to port pretty well to console. To any console, really.
That is the idea. Hoping to do others.
If anyone has questions in chat, feel free to throw them out. And I said there are 5 planets. About how many missions per planet?
There's about 5 missions per planet. We're adding a couple here and there to fill that out. So it'll be around 5 per planet, with a variety of different mission styles. Like this one's really kind of close up. You notice I'm always defending in this level, but in other levels we put more of an emphasis on offense. Like you are going around hunting, or you're trying to break into kind of a stronghold area that's well defended. We try and change those up. So there's 1 or 2 of each type per planet, generally. Go ahead.
When you're adding power-ups to this, are you doing them more mission-dependent, or...?
What we're doing is you can find some lying on the ground. See, that was like a weapon drop that came from an enemy. So things like that appear in level, and then at the end of levels you get to pick upgrade. So I'm going to increase my accuracy. But as you play the game, you get 1 per level. So as you get further into the game, you're building up whatever you want to focus on. Like maybe I would focus on high accuracy and high chance of a critical hit. And so I might pick long range weapons so that every bullet I shoot is going to land and do tons of damage. Or I could pick a more close range upgrade path. So by the end of the game, I mean, you're going to have 20 upgrades. So it's pretty Like you can get pretty different builds.
That's interesting. That's pretty much like a tech tree for your upgrades.
It's a light version of it, yeah. And of course inspired by other games in this genre, but we are certainly trying to streamline it a little bit.
Excellent. I've been doing tech tree work recently myself. Always good stuff. All right, anyone with questions in chat, go ahead and add them on in. I know some of you have played Zap Blastum before. What's the aim for the release date?
We're looking at 2021 now, because I guess that's how game development goes. I think I've been saying it's going to release next year for years, but I think every time I say it, it gets a little more polished.
Yeah, any dev has been there, done that. And Kat does note that progress is progress, which is very true.
Thanks.
And sometimes the progress actually gets you somewhere.
Yes, it's important to remember that.
You had fun with the visual effects for this. Who did that? Was that you, or the glowing, the pulsating lights, etc.?
A lot of that is my programming partner Ryan, who's done a lot of polish work on the art and effects recently. The original art is done by Stephen Vargas in New Jersey. He does 3D environment and character art. But then we've kind of added effects on top of it. So we've got like bloom going on and some emissive lighting. And then all of the, like you see the highlight on these, that's kind of like in Super Mario Galaxy. If you remember, they had the rim lighting on everything, which I think makes it all kind of glowy. So we were going for kind of an ethereal look, like spacey.
Yeah, enjoying it. And we talked about how clean the look is. I mean, obviously intentional. That actually highlights that the visual effects. All right. Great look at this. Last chance for questions from chat. Kevin, anything else you want to say?
If anyone has input on that opening cutscene, I would love to hear it, especially if the story made sense. If there were things you were confused about, I would love to hear about that, because that's in the animatic phase, and we're trying to get it ready to do the final version, but want to make sure the story comes across clearly.
All right, very cool. All right, so we're going to bring up our next presenter. While we do that, we're going to get an ad going, or at least an intermission screen.
To do there.
And
but Kevin, thank you so much for your patience and playing your game while we figured things out. Everybody that's still hanging out with us in chat, thank you for bearing with us during our technical difficulties. My technical difficulties. Next, we are going to bring up Dwayne with Brave Rock Games. He is working on a visual novel full of redemption, romance, and adventure. I dare not say anything else about it. From what I've
seen, he have one son, an infant, who the people in admiration nicknamed Jirayia, Young Thunder. During one of the civil wars, this castle was taken and Agata was slain. But by the aid of a faithful retainer who hid Jiraiya in his bosom, the boy escaped and fled northward to Ichigo. There, he lived until he grew up to manhood. At that time, Ichigo was infested with robbers. One day, the faithful retainer Jiraiya, being attacked, made resistance and was slain by the robbers. Jiraiya, now left alone in the world, went out from Ichigo and led a wandering life in several provinces. All this time, he was consumed with the desire to revive the name of his father and restored the fortunes of his family. Being exceedingly brave and an expert swordsman, he became chief of a band of robbers and plundered many wealthy merchants. In a short time, he was rich in men, arms, and booty. He was accustomed to disguise himself and go in person into the houses in presence of men of wealth, and thus learn all about their gates and guards, where they slept, and in what rooms their treasures were stored. so that success was easy. Hearing of an old man who lived in Shiano, he started to rob him, and for this purpose put on the disguise of a pilgrim. Shiano is a very high tableland, full of mountains, and the snow lies deep in the winter. A great snowstorm coming on, Jirayia took refuge in a humble house by the way. Entering, he found a very beautiful woman, who treated him with great kindness. This, however, did not change the robber's nature. At midnight, when all was still, he unsheathed his sword, and going noiselessly to her room, he found the lady absorbed in reading. Lifting his sword, he was about to strike at her neck, when, in a flash, her body changed into that of a very old man, who seized the heavy blade and broke it into pieces as though it was a stick. Then he tossed the bits of steel away, and thus spoke to Jirayia, who stood amazed but fearless.
I am a man named Senso Dojin, and I have lived in these mountains many hundred years, though my true body is that of a huge frog. I can easily put you to death, but I have another purpose. So I shall pardon you and teach you magic instead.
Then the youth bowed his head to the floor, poured out his thanks to the old man, and begged to be received as his pupil. Remaining with the old man of the mountain for several weeks, Jirayia learned all the arts of the mountain spirits, how to cause a storm of wind and rain, to make a deluge, and to control elements at will. He also learned how to govern frogs, and at his bidding they assumed gigantic size, so that on their backs he could stand up and cross rivers and carry enormous loads. When the old man had finished instructing him, he said,
Henceforth, cease from robbing or in any way injuring the poor. Take from the wicked rich and those who acquire money dishonestly, but help the needy and the suffering.
Thus speaking, the old man turned into a huge frog and hopped away. What this old mountain spirit bade him to do was just what Jirayia wished to accomplish. He set out on his journey with a light heart.
I can now make the storm and the waters obey me, and all the frogs are at my command. But alas, the magic of the frog cannot control that of the serpent. I shall be aware of this poison.
From that time forward, the oppressed poor people rejoiced many a time as the avaricious merchants and extortionate moneylenders lost their treasures. For when a poor farmer whose crops fell could not pay his rent or loan on the date promised, these hard-hearted moneylenders would turn him out of his house, seize his bed and mats and rice tub, and even the shrine and images on the god shelf, to sell them at an auction for a trifle to their minions, who resold them at a high price for the moneylender, who thus got a double benefit. Whenever a miser was robbed, the people said, "The young thunder has struck." And they were glad, knowing that it was Jirayia, young thunder. In this manner, his name soon grew to be the poor people's watchword in those troubled times. Yet Jirayia was always ready to help the innocent and honest, even if they were rich. One day, a merchant named Fukutaru was sentenced to death, though he was really not guilty. Jirayia, hearing of it, went to the magistrate and said that he himself was the very man who committed the robbery. So the man's life was saved, and Jirayia was hanged on a large oak tree. But during the night, his dead body changed into a bullfrog which hopped away out of sight, and off into the mountains of Shinano. At this time, there was living in this province a young and beautiful maiden named Tsunade. Her character was very lovely. She was always obedient to her parents and kind to her friends. Her daily task was to go into the mountains and cut brushwood for fuel. One day, while thus busy singing at the task, she met a very old man with a long white beard sweeping his breast, who said to her,
Do not fear me. I have lived in this mountain many hundred years, but my real body is that of a snail. I will teach you the powers of magic, so that you can walk on the sea or cross a river, however swift and deep, as though it were dry land.
Gladly, the maiden took daily lessons of the old man, and soon was able to walk on the waters as on the mountain paths. One day the old man said,
I shall now leave you and resume my former shape. Use your power to destroy wicked robbers. Help those who defend the poor. I advise you to marry the celebrated man Jirayia, and thus you will unite your powers.
Thus saying, the old man shriveled up into a snail and crawled away.
I am glad, for the magic of the snail can overcome that of the serpent. When Jiraiya, who has the magic of the frog, shall marry me, we can then destroy the son of the serpent, the robber named Dragon Coil.
By good fortune, Jiraiya met the maiden Tsunade, and being charmed with her beauty and knowing her power and magic, sent a messenger with presents to her parents, asking them to give him their daughter to wife. The parents agreed, and so the young and loving couple were married. Hitherto, when Jiraiya wished to cross a river, he changed himself into a frog and swam across. Or, he summoned a bullfrog before him, which increased in size until as large as an elephant. Then standing erect on his warty back, even though the wind blew his garments wildly, Jiraiya reached the opposite shore in safety. But now, with his wise powers, the two, without any delay, walked over as though the surface was a hard floor. Soon after their marriage, war broke out in Japan between the two famous clans of Tsukage and Inukage. To help them fight their battles and capture the castles of their enemies, Tsukage family besought the aid of Jiraiya, who agreed to serve them and carry their banner on his back. Their enemies, the Incukage, then secured the services of the Dragon Coil. This Orochimaru, a Dragon Coil, was a very wicked robber whose father was a man, and whose mother was a serpent that lived in the bottom of Lake Takra. He was perfectly skilled in the magic of the serpent, and by spreading venoms on his enemies, could destroy the strongest warriors. Collecting thousands of followers, he made great ravages in all parts of Japan, robbing and murdering, good and bad, rich and poor alike. Loving war and destruction, he joined the forces with the Inukage family. Now that the magic of the frog and snail were joined to the one army, and the magic of the serpent aided the other, the conflicts were bloody and terrible, and many men were slain on both sides. On one occasion, after a hard-fought battle, Jiraiya fled and took refuge in a monastery with a few trusty vassals to rest a short time. In this retreat, a lovely princess named Tagato was dwelling. She had fled from Orochimaru, who wished her for his bride. She hated to marry the offspring of a serpent and hoped to escape them. She lived in fear of him continually. Orochimaru, hearing at one time that both Jiraiya and the princess were at this place, changed himself into a serpent and, distilling a large mouthful of poisonous venom, crawled up to the ceiling in the room where Jiraiya and his wife were sleeping, and reaching a spot directly over them, poured the poisonous venom on the heads of his rivals. The fumes of the poison so stupefied Jiraiya's followers, and even the monks, that Orochimaru, instantly changing himself into a man, profited by the opportunity to seize the Princess Tagado and make off with her. Gradually, the faithful retainers awoke from their stupor to find their master and their beloved wife delirious and near the point of death, and the princess gone. What can we do to restore our dear master to life?
If we could get that, the master would recover.
Alas. And a chorus of groans showed that all hope had fled, for the mountain in India, where the elixir was made, lay 5,000 miles from Japan. Just then, a youth named Rikamatsu, was one of the pages of Jiraiya, arose to speak. He was but 14 years old, and served Jiraiya out of gratitude, for he had rescued his father from many dangers and saved his life. He begged permission to say a word to the abbot, who, seeing the lad's eager face, motioned to him with his fan to speak.
How long can our lord live?
Asked the youth.
He will be dead in 30 hours.
I'll go and procure the medicine. And if our master is still living when I come back, he will get well.
Now Rikumatsu had learned magic and sorcery from the Tengus, or long-nosed elves of the mountains, and could fly high in the air with incredible swiftness. Speaking a few words of incantation, he put on the wings of a Tengu, mounted. When the first touch of the elixir on the sick man's face, he drew a deep breath. Perspiration glistened on his forehead, and in a few moments more he sat up. Jiraiya and his wife both got well, and the war broke out again.
I don't believe it.
In a great battle, Dragon Coiled was killed. In the princess' rescue, for his prowess and aid, Jiraiya was made daimyo of Itsu. Being now weary of war and the hardships of active life, Jiraiya was glad to settle down to tranquil life in the castle and rear his family in peace. He spent the remainder of his days in reading the Book of the Sages, in composing verses, and admiring the flowers, the moon, and the landscape, and occasionally going out hawking or fishing. There, amid his children and children's children, he finished his days in peace. Okay, that's it.
Yeah, very nice.
Thank you. Cinema scene today. Yeah, but yeah. It's fine.
Yeah, the art, obviously everyone especially enjoys it. Chill gameplay. I like Laserbread is saying, love the chill gameplay. Just enjoying the story and making a choice now and again, pretty relaxing. Really interesting, the different types of art. The environmental art was very realistic. I mean, obviously very realistic. The characters, more classic anime, but then the action sequences, like people falling, etc., very cartoony. Was that a choice, or is that just how it all ended up?
Oh, that was a choice. That's similar to our previous visual novels, especially Alice in Wonderland. Alice in Wonderland was similar to that.
All right. Now you've got a lot of text in the game. Are you the primary voice actor? Or is that somebody else who's the primary voice actor?
I'm the primary voice actor. It was cheaper for me to do it myself than to hire.
And you had one other or two others? I'm trying to get my voices I heard in there.
Yes. Two others. They both did multiple character voices.
Yeah, excellent. They didn't have to use the Japanese names very much. I noticed that was primarily you. So
Yeah, to make it easier.
Yeah. Still, I mean, that must have been a pretty long VO recording session or multiple sessions.
Yes, it was, but it went rather smoothly. Like the guy, Jonathan, I believe, he's a professional voice actor, so it didn't take that long for him. The other person I gave a lot of feedback from, they're newer to voice acting, but I like their voice, so we just talked and went from there.
So Laserbread Inc. asked about the type of tools you used, and you told Paint.net, Audacity, Filmora, and more. It's very interesting seeing them combined like this.
Yeah.
So, so what's the major tool to bring it all together?
The game engine we use. So for this visual novel, we use Visual Novel Maker, which is on Steam. It has its own learning curve and issues and other stuff, so it took a while. Yep, thank you.
Yeah, I'm going to try and grab the link for that later because that's pretty fascinating. Now, you've got a number of branching points within this. Do most of them just one branch continues, the other branch ends, or do you actually have separate branches as a result?
So eventually, the branches will merge again, and it's very limited in branching paths.
Right.
Our second visual novel, The Stonecutter, has multiple different endings and multiple different paths. But this one, we wanted to focus more on the main story. I did remember that I uploaded some of the cinema scenes to the YouTube channel, I think. So could show you that if you want.
About how long? I want to get the potato game in next. Very funny, going from this beautiful art to potatoes.
I'll just show you this one. This is the shortest
Sure.
one. The other trailers are a lot longer. Not trailers, cinema scenes.
Oh, that's right. You noted that the walkthrough avoided the cinema scenes.
Yeah.
My master and Tsunade have fallen ill. And no one is brave enough to do anything about it. Enter me, Rikimatsu! Don't worry, Master. I'll save you! Don't forget me, Tsunade. I'm here too! I don't believe it.
The tale of the Gallant Jirayia from Brave Rock Games. You're all right, kid. Thanks for reading my tale.
Yeah, that was a trailer from last year.
Yeah, a lot of fun. So yeah, everyone loves cloud effects and water effects, so it's fun seeing them in a game like this.
Yep.
Kat asked, what got you into visual novels? What made you select this path of game development? Brave Rock Games says it's from Global Game Jam 2010. Made a visual novel there and it typed first place. Was that locally?
Yeah, that was SPSU.
I thought I remembered that.
Yeah.
Excellent.
And then I always wanted to make, for some reason, like, not for some reason, ever since I was a kid, I wanted to make games. And then I wanted to make games for, like, kids and orphans and charities and stuff. And then eventually, as I got older, I just took that idea and combined it with visual novels, and it worked out well.
Now let's talk about distribution for these. You note your URLs for YouTube and Facebook here, but nothing else. So how's the distribution going on for these?
So it's weird. I submitted more links than that, but not all of them came through. I have, let's see, Steam, since I'm still screen sharing. Actually, I'll just go to the landing page. The landing page will have it all. Let me get that URL. So it's in Steam's, Twitch, not Twitch, itch.io, cartridge. I just found the landing page. It's also on Nintendo's Wii U. Jiraiya isn't. The other visual novels are. I want to like bring it to Nintendo Switch, but that requires time and funds. But yeah, this is a Steam, itch.io, Wii U, cartridge.
And certainly with the art, be perfect for all the Nintendo platforms. I always think of the interactive novels doing best on Steam. Is that what you find?
Not for ours for some reason. Like, it was way popular on Wii U. Like,
Excellent.
there's more people excited about it on Nintendo Wii U than on Steam. Steam seems to cater towards more adult visual novels and less towards kids.
Very cool. What's the monetization on these? Do you charge by chapter? Do you do the whole thing at once?
Whole thing at once.
All right. I know you're the Patreon setup. What do the Patreons get?
Let me see. I started the Patreon page like a year ago, but no one signed up, so I forgot.
Oh, okay. Well, never mind then.
Yeah, this is the Patreon page. They get the visual novels for free, depending on how much they donate. Like, all the visual novels will probably be over $10, but they can get all of them for $6, and also their names and future videos, like behind-the-scene videos and stuff that we do.
Where do you find your community to be most active? Is it on your Facebook group? Is it in Steam?
Well, the most active of all was on Miiverse and Nintendo Wii U.
Excellent.
But they retired that in 2007, I believe. So now it's remaining people, some on Twitch, some on Facebook. But yeah, it was definitely more popular in Nintendo systems.
So, I mean, there's a lot in here. I mean, the art is ambitious. There's a lot of music. You didn't make the music. It sounded like you bought it, though. It was very fun.
Yeah, most of the music, actually, I can't show you. Oh, well, maybe no, it'll mess up the string. But most of the music was from free license developers or music developers that just wanted to share their art. They didn't care
That's great.
or not. So I went ahead and gave them credit so to get people to know more about the artist.
All right. So about how long does it take you to put one of these together? You said this is a little less ambitious than the Alice in Wonderland.
Yeah, Alice in Wonderland was.
How many person hours would you estimate went into this?
Well, I can't say hour. I could say months.
Sure.
Like for this one, it was about maybe 6 months.
Excellent.
For Jirayia.
Is that 6 months near full time, half time?
Full time.
Wow. Very good.
Because there was a lot of different programs I had to go to it. Oops.
I am staring into infinity.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
All right, great stuff. Last chance for questions in chat. Hope I didn't miss anybody's questions. But yeah, definitely enjoyed it. Really interesting, really fun aspects to this. So thank you very much for sharing.
There we go. Okay. Well, I didn't want to start yet. Okay. Anyway, we're just gonna go hop right in then. So this is Potato Paradox Plus. This is another visual novel, a slightly different take on the genre than our friends at Brave Rock Games. But we were really inspired by point-and-click adventure games and games like, Monkey Island, Day of the Tentacle, those kind of things, the LucasWare games, and kind of thought it would be cool to take some of that into the visual novel space. But in general, this is a story about Doug here, who is working a part-time job at a fast food place, going to school, and then gets caught in a time paradox, like one does. So I'll kind of walk through some of the gameplay, make sure that right there. Cool. So let's play through a little bit. So I don't have voice acting quite yet, so I gotta work on that. I'll talk to Dwayne after this about voice actors. But this is Susie. So just kind of give a synopsis of what's going on. So they're kind of just going through their day. They're kind of wrapping up, closing time, and we'll start to see some of the interesting bits about what makes this visual novel a little bit different than stuff you might have seen before. So this is his good friend Dick. You get to make some choices about, I don't know who this guy is. Kind of offend him. So I'm gonna talk a little bit, and we'll jump right into some of the gameplay stuff. So essentially what this game is going to look like in the end is we're gonna have a lot of micro games kind of built into the story. So in this game, we're cooking burgers. So we got a little bit of direction on where to go. A lot of this is placeholder art, but we also need to cook some French fries. So I'll show you that. And we put them in the fryer. So, bam. So there's gonna be lots of like cooking segments throughout the game. Where Doug kind of works his job. So this is kind of our test bed for that. And then what's kind of cool about this and what's cool about the tools we're using to build this is that all of these little mini games can equally branch the story. So we're really trying to just kind of push that in an interesting direction. I really like I said, the puzzles and different gameplay elements that come out of point and click adventure games. And we wanted to try to see if we can capture that in a more accessible way by making these kind of fun, almost like WarioWare kind of games built into this story that also could branch the narrative instead of focusing only on button choices and stuff. So now we're going to run into Boss Man. He's the boss of the Potato Palazzo. He is a very angry guy, but he's going to have us use the new clock out machine here in a minute. So if you're interested in reading through this, I do have this demo up on itch, so I'll post that link here in a second. But right now I'm just kind of showing off some stuff. So the music you're hearing, actually, talk a little bit about my team. The music is from a guy named Dave Zagardo out in Birmingham, Alabama. He's been great. We've worked with him a lot on game jams and other stuff, and then it made a lot of sense to hire him for this game. This is just the very first prototype kind of track he's been working on, and he has kind of like a fast version and a slower version. But we're working with Fmod to try to get really dynamic audio in the game. That's something that we're still actively kind of working on. But yeah, and then also the art here. There are two artists, AJ Huey, also known as Broken Mojo on Twitter. I'll post his link. He's doing the background art, and then my good friend Jess Cookston is doing all the character art. And then I handle a lot of the visual effects, which is not a whole lot, but hopefully more soon. So let's hop into the punch clock temp art. So this punch clock doesn't seem like much, but it becomes very important to the story later on. So we can kind of figure out how that happens. But it's another example of the branching narrative. So here, if I type in random gobbledygook, I can't continue. But if I type in the specific number it asks for, the plot continues. So it's kind of, we're building on top of the Ink scripting language, which was used in games like Heaven's Vault and 80 Days and some other popular games by Inkle Studios. They have an open source scripting language that we're using that's really cool for this stuff and allows us to do some really neat things. We're using Unity to integrate with that. And so now Doug's going to drive home. This is also very temporary art, but, well, also a little bit fast. So, now we're home. We get to meet our mom. Doug's mom. Yeah, so I won't go through the whole story stuff, but we'll get you to some more interesting stuff that happens with some other. So we got some more branching narratives in the traditional way here, where depending on what I pick there, I get different options later. And we have some different UI for, let's say you want to text somebody. We have a whole texting interface part. This one is still in development. A lot of the stuff is pretty placeholder, but it's coming together. I got a lot of script. I should also mention M. Tomko, our writer. She's from the Chicago area, a really great writer who we've hired to work on this game. She's done an excellent job building out the story, building out this world that I kind of dreamed up, and then she just took it and ran with it, and it's awesome. So I really appreciate that work. But yeah, so we have some more interfaces, just different ways of kind of showing the same story and kind of keeping it fresh. Is the idea. And then got a funny little segment here. It's like, I don't want to study, and then you can keep denying it, and then eventually we tell you, no, you have to study. So hop in there, and then we have a study mini game. So it kind of more examples of how this all comes together. But I'll go ahead and save the rest of that for later, and I will back out of this. So I'll just go ahead and finish it off because I don't have a way to close this without jumping into Discord again, which is probably not what we want to do. But yeah, so this is kind of Doug studying for his business ethics course. So a lot of like funny, interesting things about business and capitalism, and our own little personal messages that are kind of coming through. A big inspiration for this game was I wanted to make a game for people that aren't usually in games, like just like, hey, I'm a fast food worker, right? Like that's not the kind of person that a game is usually about, but I wanted something that connected with those people and their lives and said something to them that had some meaning. So Doug fell asleep. It's a very temporary transition here, but this is some spooky stuff happening in Doug's dream. It's like a frog guy. That's crazy. So this is the end of the demo right now. But yeah, like I said, you can go on and play that on itch if you'd like. We got a Discord. You can join us on Discord there. But yeah, I'm open for questions, if I can get back to the questions without breaking anything.
All right, everybody, let's have your questions. And Ryan, just keep playing the game, and I'll throw any questions at you as they come in. Yeah, loving it already. It looks like you're ready to be selling this to Adult Swim Games.
Yeah, that would be sweet. So if anybody in Adult Swim wants to hit me up, I'm available for conversations afterwards.
Yep, we'll have to get you in front of those folks. So yeah, I like the team you've put together for this. Good diverse mix of folks, good group of skills. How has it been managing them?
It's been kind of interesting because a lot of us are part-time. Some of us are very part-time. I, for one, am very part-time. So there are stretches where progress doesn't happen, and then there are stretches where, we're all kind of just syncing up occasionally, but mostly working our own silos. It's a lot different than working like a full-time thing, because I'm doing that too with my day job, and it's you can't expect the same things out of people when they're not full-time on something, especially when you're not paying them for full-time work, and you kind of have to be reasonable about your expectations there. But still, like, the amount of amazing work that comes out of my friends here is great, and it's been worth it to work on the game. See what they're doing. I don't even care what I'm doing. Just what they're doing so cool. So.
All right. Yeah, so you're talking about how you're going to implement the music and audio. You want to talk a little bit more about that? You touched on it during the presentation.
Yeah, so the cool thing about Ink, which is the scripting language we're using to do the dialogue, is that we can define our own custom tags and we can part those over. So what we're doing is we're writing this giant script file with basically all the game events in it, and that opened us up to be able to use a dynamic audio engine like Fmod to allow us to set certain parameters and triggers at any point in the story, at any time, any beat. We can wait for a second before we do it. So it's really cool that we have all this flexibility, and to use that, Fmod seemed like a really good place to go because first of all, they're free under a certain revenue amount, so that helps. And then secondly, we can get our composer, audio engineer Dave, we can get him in Fmod, and then we can get him actually in the script, so he can sit there and edit the script and add his tags where he needs them, and then play the game and then hear it come out. So we're still kind of working on getting that up and going, but once we do, it's going to be just fantastic, I think, for the way the game's going to sound in the end. So
very cool. So you showed a link on itch.io. How else are you planning to distribute this?
Right now, we're looking at itch and Steam. Those are the main ones. I would love to do a Switch port. It's going to require some creative problem solving as far as some of the mini games go. But I think it's definitely doable, especially now that the mini games have seen a lot of iteration over the past couple of years now that the game's been in development. So they've seen a lot of iteration, so that they've kind of streamlined into something that I think we could really do on a console. I just have to find the ability to talk to the right people to get that to happen. But I think that would be an awesome thing to do. But right now, Steam and itch.io are what we're definitely doing.
So Kat asked a very pointed question. What part of real life inspired this game?
So I used to work at Publix as basically a fishmonger, but I was the seafood guy. It was an interesting experience, like going to college, working at a grocery store. Publix is not a bad company by any stretch of the imagination, but it's just an interesting disconnect. Like you're very you go to school one day and then you go to work the other day and people are telling you that you should stop going to school and you should work here, and then you're like, I don't want to work here. And then what does it mean to be me? What do I want to do with my life? And I wanted to explore that in a video game, and we made this game jam game for this. Actually, that's also on itch if you're interested, but we made that several years ago for Ludum Dare. Shapeshift was the theme, and we made this game where this guy turns into a potato at the end of every path. I thought it was funny. And so we said, eventually that just kind of resonated with us, and we were like, yeah, well, you know what if we explored that some more and talked about identity and what it means to be who you want to be in a world where everybody wants to use you for their own ends.
Absolutely. You can go a lot of different ways. You say tomato, I say tomato, you say potato, I say tater tots. Totally understand. So let's talk a bit about the art style for this. Did you go through a whole concepting phase to come up with this, or did you pretty much have set in mind what you wanted to do?
There was a lot of concepting and team changes and development, I think, that happened throughout this process. Started with the Game Jam game art, which was me. Which was not good. It was okay. It was definitely not shippable stuff. And then went through some teammates that were less professional artists, but more just interested in working on the game, and that fell through after a while. And I've been friends with Jess forever, but she was very busy for finishing up her college degree for the first long while of this game, and then. We also worked with a guy named, actually in 2018, I had some art from a guy named Mike, which also didn't end up panning out, but he did a couple of the characters and I guess those kind of became concepts, but it wasn't until Jess came on, once she got more time, that the characters really came together. The backgrounds were also the same way. Mike was doing those too, and then kind of fell through, and then AJ actually came with us to Siege just to hang out, and I was like, hey man, you want to do the backgrounds? And he was like, okay. So I got him to do the backgrounds, and then it all started coming together. And I think it's paying off finally. It takes a while to find the right team, but once you do, I think it really pays off.
I love it. Another testimonial for Siege. Come to Siege, make games.
Yeah.
That's perfect. Now you're out in Huntsville, and people don't think of Huntsville as a hotbed of game development. Some people still make the mistake when I think of Georgia as a hotbed, but you've got a lot of good game dev happening out there. Can you talk a little about the companies that are there?
Yeah, so my day job, I work for Army Game Studio. We've been out there for near on 20 years now, making America's Army and a bunch of other games and trainers. And a lot of the work out in Huntsville is primarily military simulation, military training. Almost every defense contracting company has some people working in Unity doing AR, VR visualization stuff, which is where I got my start professionally. And so very programmer heavy industry out here. They don't have a whole lot of understanding of the complexities of like the art pipeline or audio pipeline. Like, you know, they don't really hire a lot for that. We do have people, especially in Army Game Studio, that do that, but a lot of it is programmer heavy stuff. And we have a local group, After Hours Game Dev, run by a 3D artist, Nick Compton, and another guy, Lyle Shields, that works with me, who's in like a manager position. But they're both really cool. They trying to kind of inspire the local community to make games, you know, after hours, right? Kind of after they're done working on their day job stuff. Because a lot of us do things that don't really see the light of day. They might, like, you know, some soldiers might use them, or some very specific set of people might use them. But a lot of us yearn for like games that come out and to the public eye. So that's kind of what our group is about out here. But yeah, it's definitely an interesting place to be if you're in game development, because there's a lot of job security in that kind of thing. So if you guys are looking for jobs, don't skimp on Huntsville.
So, Kat, you're right. This isn't a game; it's a simulator.
Yeah,
Public potato simulator. Yeah, this is all. Very nice setup for it. Love the art. Love the plus. Love the. We think it's ketchup with the potato, but
yeah, we never
very
know.
well be blood. But when you do the voiceovers, you're looking to do VO for the entire game?
That's not 100% on the table right now, just from cost standpoint. But I haven't ruled it out completely, just because it might be a lot of writing. But I would love to do it. I think it might require some additional funding, because I want to pay for some quality voice actors. But this is all kind of funded out of pocket at the moment. So Adult Swim, again, if you're out there and you want this.
All right, y'all heard it. The Potato Paradox Plus VO Kickstarter coming soon.
Yeah.
Yeah, very cool stuff. All right, anyone else in the audience got any last questions for it? I'll throw out one more. How many lines of dialogue do you think you have in the game right now?
Right now, probably it's about 200 pages of like document. So I don't know. It's probably like 15,000 lines, maybe. I don't know. It's a good bit, but it's definitely not the whole thing. So we got a lot more to go. But
all right, good stuff. Thank you very much, Ryan.
Thank
With Potato Paradox Plus. Yep, we're still on.
Yeah.
So go ahead. Answer the question. What kind of design challenges did you run into?
yeah, sure. So one big one was so trying to make. I think at the root of all of it was trying to make a game that's both supposed to be a visual novel and supposed to be these like fun mini games, right? Because there are so many times where you think, oh, I'm gonna put a QuickTime event in this, right? And then that sounds cool, but then you get to it and you realize someone's reading a book, and then a thing jumps out at them and says, "Click this right now," and that doesn't work at all. So that was a problem. And then different variations of that problem kept cropping up. Like that cooking game has come down a lot in complexity over the past year or so, because every time I would play test it, people would be very confused, or like I used to have like timers involved and they would get stressed, and it wasn't the kind of game where you're supposed to be really confused or stressed, right? This is the kind of game I want you to like wrap up in a blanket with some hot cocoa on the weekend, get through it. So a lot of challenge in, I guess, the messaging of what the gameplay was trying to do in the visual novel part as a whole, like in the game as a whole. So that was probably my biggest challenge so far. I think we've got a good handle on it now, though. I'm just keeping it simple and having fun with it.
Yeah, but you're simulating a fast food environment, stressed out and nervous and under pressure. That's just the norm.
Yeah, it kind of became this back and forth between those two things, so it's interesting.
All right, Kat, now we'll turn it back over to you. Thanks for letting us answer Emil Rowe's question.
Anyway, thank you guys so much. That was a technically challenged but a phenomenal showcase of 3 amazing games that are participating in the Siege Silver Excellence in Game Dev Awards. And Siege is happening November 13th. Pardon my dog squeaking in the background. November 13th through 15th virtually. So head over to siegecon.net for more information. The workshop schedule and whatnot is up online, so you can check out and see what that offering is. I would like to send a hearty thank you to all of the devs who presented today. So Kevin with Shiny Dolphin Games, he presented Zap Blastum. Dwayne with Brave Rock Games presented Tale of the Gallant Jirayia, I think. I'm probably saying that wrong. Please forgive me. And then Ryan, we just wrapped up with and showcased with Laserbread Games Potato Paradox Plus. So links are in chat. So definitely go and check them out. If you haven't already, give them a follow, show them some love. And I hope that, well, no, first, thank you all very much for your patience and those who have stuck through to the very end. You've been a wonderful, wonderful audience. And yeah, so head over to siegecon.net, check out what's going on over there. You'll see these lovely indie games again, and have a wonderful evening. Thanks so much for tuning in.